everybody. Welcome to It's in the Cards. Hope everybody's having a great week and staying warm the best you can. It's in most states. It's actually colder than Alaska, they said the other day. In most of the U.S., Alaska's actually warmer, and I believe it from what I've been hearing everywhere. I do want to say something and clarify one thing quick from last week's show and the Lenormand cartomancy. And
you lost your camera, Misha.
that is that as you saw, for those that saw the show last week, I had opened up the set and the deck live, looking at it for basically the first time because I hadn't had time to fully go through it. And what's going on with the camera?
Yeah, we lost your camera, Misha.
Why is it turning on and off?
No clue.
Anyway, I had said there was some sort of a discrepancy, an error with the man and the woman card. Actually, I was able to take a better look at it, look into things after the show had ended, and it's an extra set in there of the man and the woman card, and they gave them the reverse number. So I just wanted to clarify that from last week. That was done deliberately, and there was not the discrepancy between the cards and the books. But anyway, I want to get on with tonight's show because our guest is so wonderful. I believe it's the third time that she's joining me because we just keep running out of time each time she's on for the different topics that we want to keep discussing and get into with everybody. Reverend Cindy Lee is on this evening joining me tonight again.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good.
We're going to be discussing this evening the other side and past lives. There we go. I think I'm back.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not sure what was going on. I kept the X wouldn't go off the video to undo it. Kept going off and going back on. Okay. So I want to give everybody that's here with us, seeing Cindy for the first time this evening, a little bit of a background on Cindy. And she started at a very young age, and her abilities go back to 6 generations. And her family is of the mey-tee tradition. Did I say that properly, Cindy?
You did. I'm proud of you.
I'm getting enough practice. So I want to, we're going to run out of time again, so we want to get on with the discussion, and we will open up the phone lines as well. If anybody has any questions or anything throughout, but we'll do that in a little bit, not right away. You have been doing what you do from very young.
Yes. And professionally, I've only been doing it for about 20 years.
Only? I'm only about 10, so...
I'm sure there's others that are out there with more professional experience than me. So I don't want to take away from that.
Right. Now, when you see spirit, fill in for everybody how it is? Do you visually see them? Do you just sense that they're there? How they communicate with you? And so forth.
I find it works different with each spirit. Sometimes, it's like they have enough energy, they can manifest, and it's like seeing someone walk into your room. You turn around and, oh my gosh. And then they like flicker. Sometimes they dissipate, but you can still feel them with you. My door was not shut tight. I have two little critters here that will probably pounce, so don't let that scare anybody. Sometimes I only see them as energy, and that would be energetic lines moving back and forth. And let me shut that door really quick. Not that I don't love my little four-leggeds, but they can be a handful.
And you had enough going on today.
Yes, I did. Yes, I do. I also, and there'll be some times that spirit will show up and I do not feel them. That doesn't mean that I've lost my ability. It means that they are vibrating at a frequency I don't feel. And that happens.
Right. Now, we do want to discuss past lives because we had started it just very general the last time you were on and just completely ran out of time.
That we did.
As we always do. With past lives, I guess the first thing people are always wanting to know, and the answers vary depending on who does it, and I guess, each individual's abilities. Some believe that the only way to determine a past life is for the person to actually be hypnotized, go under, and experience it themselves. Others say that, it's fine for the psychic that has the capabilities of doing that to do it and experience it for the person. Some say it can, because that's, if it gets done that way, it can be done even long distance. What is your take on how that works for you?
I think each way is valid because not everybody will be able to experience a past life through being hypnotized.
Cindy, would that be because some people just can't?
They have a fear.
Hypnotized?
No, I believe you can be hypnotized. I mean, you can get so engrossed in a TV show that is being hypnotized.
Right.
I
always wondered if I'd be able to, because I can't even meditate. So whenever I attempt to, I'm concentrating on, I know I can't do this. So if I was going to you or anybody, I think the whole time I'd be thinking, I can't do this. They can't hypnotize. Because my head doesn't calm down. And if I get it to calm down, it's going on and on and on about how I can't calm down to even get hypnotized or to meditate.
Right. But now, the last time we were on,
yes,
we were discussing the water and the drought and how you could not drink water.
Right. Yes.
And when I was doing the clearings and stuff, we had, I forget exactly what I was given on you, but it was like you were, what, scratching for water out of the mud?
For water out in the mud, yes. That
Right.
I had nothing to drink, and it, like, almost drought conditions, basically no water around, and so little of it that, you know, I was sucking mud, yes.
Yeah. Now, we did a little bit of energy work on you. Did you notice you being able to drink more water?
Did actually, and actually, it wasn't even consciously on my mind, our discussion, because I had it went and got forgotten, actually. I wasn't even focused on it, so it had nothing to do with the fact that, you know, some people that, you know, want to debunk us and things like that will say, well, that was on her mind, so, you know, now she's able to drink. I hadn't even given it a thought since you were on 2-3 weeks ago.
Right.
But I have been, you know, not a whole lot like you're supposed to, but I have been drinking water.
You probably have, you know, like that onion, you know, more layers to come off.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Now, when you pick that up, how did you pick that up? Did you just have the vision?
Right.
Scrambling in the dry ground, trying to drink? Was it told to you? How did it come through for you?
Well, I have a guide that will tap my energy.
Okay.
If he was in this world, he'd be tapping my arm. But he says, you know, and then he would drop in the picture. And then at first he showed me, what did he show me at first? It was like a still shot, and then he like wound the music box up, and then I had like a short little video of what you were doing.
Oh, okay.
But I only get very small clips.
Right.
Then either your guide comes forward with information, or the clip is the only thing I get, one or the other.
Okay,
So,
one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting the visual, you get the visual, and you're not hearing any info then.
Right.
Okay.
Now, what really was exciting was when my 2 youngest daughters were born.
Yes,
They came in.
Did you hear that?
And they introduced themselves to my mother before they arrived. My oldest daughter is my great-grandmother, and I knew her before she passed. She was 97 years old when she passed, and I was in the 3rd grade. When my youngest daughter came along, again, she introduced herself to my mother, and she was my mother's aunt, or my great aunt. Now, I've had people tell me, oh no, that's too soon. That, you know, it takes 100 years before you can reincarnate. I don't believe that's so, because I can look at these girls and their mannerisms are the same as my aunt and my great-grandmother. And my youngest, it drives me crazy. It drove me crazy when my aunt did it. My aunt had a phrase, you know. Sometimes you'll hear someone say, well, whatever, or, you know, so what, you know, some kind of little catchphrase.
Right.
My aunt was what not.
What not?
Whatnot. Now, what is a whatnot? When you're talking to someone and you ask them a question and they, give you this look like you should know the answer and say whatnot, I mean, that's not a knick-knack.
Right.
My aunt did the same thing. Now, I didn't use those words. My mother doesn't use those words. And yet she brought those words back into this life because she says them now. She's 21. She doesn't, those aren't words that are popular for people to say.
No, they're not.
So I have to
used it. She didn't pick it up on her own from hearing it.
Right. So when people say, "Oh no, it takes longer," I say, "No, it's according to your spiritual walk." And evidently, these two ladies wanted to come back in together.
Right.
And they wanted to be in the same lineage. Then my
Why do you
second...
think, do you, I want to stop you there, Cindy,
Okay.
because I don't want to, go off and then we have a whole bunch of questions and we're backtracking. Now, do you really think it was their choice to come back and be part of the same family?
Yes.
Or do you, because I know, the belief is that you keep reincarnating over and over again until you reach your highest level spiritually. And that's some believe that is also a determining factor as to how soon you come back.
Well, my mey-tee tradition, which is Native American, and mey-tee is a mixed blood, which means I have in my teachings and upbringing is Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole, and some French, and very little Irish. Very little Irish. Okay. The teachings that these natives have passed on is you choose your parents because of the DNA they can provide you. You know whether or not you're going to be in an abusive situation, and that might be one of your lessons to learn how to get out of that situation.
Right.
You will also learn or choose your lessons as to whether or not you want to be an introvert, an extrovert. My lesson was to be a light-skinned native. I mean, when people look at me, they don't see Indian.
Right.
They see someone with a European background.
Right.
And yet, I hold a position in our band, and I don't mean musical. So, that has been a very big lesson for me to really come into who I am without letting people's prejudice stop me.
Right. Now, I've also heard, going back to the thing where, we might choose to be in an abusive relationship or with abusive parents, whatever. I've heard the belief that mentally handicapped, the highly special needs are that way because they've basically reached their highest spiritual level, and they come back one more time that way.
That's an interesting concept. I had never heard that before. I have always been taught that when a handicapped child of any type, whether it's autism, cerebral palsy, the drug abuse children, right, that it is part of their lesson on learning how to reintegrate pieces of their soul that have fragmented over their lifetime. So they're not really a whole person yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. I've never, that is interesting as well. Yes.
So that would be two different, very different teachings, because I had not heard yours.
Right. And we have a question in the chat room getting back to the example of abusive relationships.
Okay.
What happens to those who don't successfully get out of it? Do they have to come back and live in another abusive relationship because they failed to save themselves, or, you know, they choose to remain that way? Do they have to come do it again until they're able to get out of it, or end up not in one to begin with, recognizing that it's going to be that way and staying away?
I don't really have an answer for that, because if their lesson is to come back and survive their abuse and maintain that pattern throughout their life, is that because of karma?
Right.
I mean, maybe they abused somebody else.
That's what I was going to suggest. It could be a simple matter of, in a past life, they were the abuser.
That's right. There, at that point, and I do believe, if it is that life lesson, you know, the karmic life lesson,
right,
then their lesson is to learn forgiveness of themselves for the abuse that they have dished out, the abuse in this life, or their abuser, forgiving their abuser in this life, you know, forgiving themselves, which you might say, well, why should they forgive themselves? You know, they're the ones being abused. But they chose it, and then they continued to allow it. Now, as a child, it is my experience only, and I don't mean to diminish it on anybody's part, that as a child, they unconditionally love that parent, even though that parent abuses them.
right.
So if they don't make it through their childhood and end up passing over during their childhood due to this abuse, which, you know, makes me sick to my stomach to think of something like that, they learnt the part of being able to love even while being abused. Now, as you grow older, then you start seeing how other people live and realize, oh, this isn't right.
This isn't the norm. Right.
Right. I don't want anybody else knowing that this happens to me. So that is when your lesson shifts, and it's up to you to learn to grow out of it and not be an abuser. Continue to love and forgive. Definitely don't forget, but to love and forgive. I think those are life lessons that are chosen to help you progress on your spiritual path.
Right.
The reason you might choose this lifetime.
See, you're psychic. Right when you were saying that, somebody in the chat room typed out that question. Why would somebody intentionally place themselves in that position?
Because they were the abuser in another lifetime. And so now they have to karmically learn what it was like to be the abusee instead of abuser.
So do you, from that concept, Cindy Lane, do you feel everybody that's being abused, all of them at one time were the abuser?
I go back to anything's possible.
Right.
And I don't mean that as a cop-out. I'm finding that 99% of the people, when I see their past lives, they were the abuser.
Right. Okay.
Very seldom, bless you.
Thank you.
Very seldom have I seen the bully or the victim where the opposite had not happened to them in a previous life.
Okay. And it's not necessarily a situation where, we'll just use you and I as the example. I'm currently being abused by you. In the past life, you were the one that I abused. I could have abused anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think we're paired up?
I think sometimes we are paired up.
Okay.
Not necessarily every time. And this goes back into being reincarnated. And for my mother. My mother was her great-great-grandfather.
Okay.
On her father's side. Now this lifetime, my mother has not had more than a handful of dealings with her father's family because her father died before she was born. But the great-grandfather chose to reincarnate in what would have been his great-granddaughter's in-laws family instead of his own DNA. Because he wanted to know what it was like to be raised in a pagan or a non-Christian home.
Okay.
And that was definitely us. Now, my mother, even though she finished high school, then she became an accountant.
Right.
She knows her herbs. She knows her homeopathics, which is a vibrational medicine. She knows how things work in the body and oftentimes does not know how she knows it.
Just does. Right.
Right. She probably could have gone to medical school and whizzed through it for for a GP, or even a naturopath, but she didn't. Now, I want to touch on my grandchildren.
Okay, well, there is another question that came up in the chat room as far as picking different circumstances to come back to. And this question is, under what circumstances would we choose to come here as a psychic? Why would we choose?
No. What was I thinking?
Yeah, right.
Okay, now, a psychic reads energy differently than a medium. Okay? A medium is someone that talks to dead people. A psychic reads the energy of like the airwaves, you know? So, again, it is a spiritual ability. We all have it. So, at the same time, it's not like, why would I ask to be born this way? We were all born this way.
Right.
The question would be, why did you choose to allow yourself to be shut down and not be psychic? Because we're all born with these spiritual abilities. And then as we mature, we have our invisible friends, and then parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, kids at school. No, you're weird. You have an invisible friend.
Yeah. There's nobody there. What's wrong with you?
Right. And so then you shut down. So what is your lesson in being shut down instead of remaining open?
And extending on that, is the question, why would somebody come back as a medium versus psychic? Why, I guess, are some psychic as opposed to being a medium?
I think the psychic is a medium, and a medium is a psychic. I think they go hand in hand. With myself,
I think my belief, I'm sorry, is every medium's a psychic, not every psychic's a medium. But the psychic can develop the mediumship, or, it starts happening, or it's happening all along for some, and they don't realize it's coming through as a mediumship.
Right.
In other words, they might think they're in communication with their own guide, getting the information, when actually they're in communication with the person that crossed over.
Right.
To get the info that they're getting.
And that's true. But I know in myself, my psychic ability has always been more strong than my mediumship. I don't know why that is. I would really like to become a strong medium, but at the same time, I do not want to become a strong medium. I don't want to have to give up any of my psychic abilities.
Right. Right.
So I don't know if I can do that. I keep trying, but
now, I did cut you off. I'm sorry. You were gonna, veer a little bit, but I wanted to handle those questions there. So go ahead.
All right. I have a grandson who is 4 years old. And, you know, kids say the darndest things. Like when he announced to his parents that he was a princess in his last life. And then he looks at his dad and says, yeah, I was your grandfather and I had to hide that. His grandfather was gay.
Oh.
But because it was in a time era where that was not accepted, he had his family, he raised all of his kids, but when he retired, him and his wife split, and he came out of the closet.
Okay.
So you have this little 4-year-old who is just bouncing all over the place because, he found a jewelry box that had all of his rings, and some men might find them gaudy, but the man had taste. I wouldn't mind having some of those rings, at least the settings in them. And so he knows at 4 who he was. And he makes references to who he was. Why did he come in so quickly after passing? Number one, he knew that coming into Scott's family, instead of the 2 sisters, he was going to get my daughter as a mother who was going to allow him to be whoever he wanted to be. In the native world, we call that mey-ho, meaning that you do things a little different. And that's okay. Not that we encourage it, but we accept it because we know that that's the way you're born.
Right.
That's not a choice. You can't, wake up and decide one day, I'm going to be this way. And then when my grandmother raised me because my mom was 16 when she got married. So basically my grandmother lived next door to keep an eye on my mom and dad as they began their families, that keeping everything kind of close knit.
Right.
My grandmother died at the age of 94, and that was back in '09. She came back in as my grandson, and she holds my hand, or he holds my hand, the same way my grandmother did. My grandmother didn't hold my hand like this. She would put her thumb on the back and very lightly put her hand here. So, that's definitely not a normal way for a 9-month-old to hold your hand.
Right.
There's other little, consistent things with the way she did things. And one of the issues I believe she has come back in to understand is the problem of being a little overweight. That was always a pet peeve of hers. You could be 15 pounds overweight, and my grandmother would say, "Oh, isn't it a shame she's gobby fat?" What is gobby fat? Some words you just never understand, and that was, that was another one of mine, other than, whatnot. He, at 9 months, is a chunky little boy. So this might be something that he has come in. Now, the other reason I believe my grandmother chose that particular daughter, my grandmother in her heyday was a partier. She was very rowdy. My daughter is a partier. She can get very rowdy. I believe my grandmother knew that that's the house she wanted to be born into.
Okay.
So, we can see different traits that are carried from one incarnation to the next.
Right.
In years past, we could not, because it was taking us longer to make that spiritual journey. And now as time speeds up, evidently it's speeding up on the other side too. Because we're coming back in relatively short time periods. And the generations that are here on Earth, they see you leave, they see you return, and you have the same mannerisms. Not all the same, but quite a bit.
Right. We had a question going back to why we would choose to come back a certain way. I know what my feeling of this one is. The question was, why would one choose to come back as a transgender? I would think maybe because there was some sort of opposite sex issues. Maybe they were, male chauvinists. They have to come back. But then that would be why maybe they're female in this life instead of male. When they were males, all the rest of the time they need to come back as a female. So why would one end up choosing to be a
transgender?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I believe that falls under what, as a native, we would call being a meho. It is not that you were a choice. It's not a choice. It is how you are. You may be a male and feel very feminine and very pretty. And let me tell you, those transgender people, they can pull an outfit together. They match. I mean, they make some of us who really look sad when we go out. I know a gentleman who's a transgender, and every time I see him, his lipstick, his nail polish, his purse, and his shoes are all the same color. His clothes are all in the same hues. But I mean, there's no way I would take that much time to pull it all together.
Right.
I mean, I just look at, how he pulls it together, and it's like, I wouldn't take that much time.
I don't know many people that would.
But the transgender people do.
Yes, they do.
They really do.
Very meticulous.
They are. And why? I don't have an answer on why, but I tell you what, I believe they all have just a tad bit of OCD when it comes to fashion.
Extending on to the same question.
Okay.
Having style is just one component of it, but there's people
That's true.
with it that outright suffer.
Yes.
That they are in the wrong body.
Yes.
Why do that on purpose and choose to go through that's upset, that feeling as if something's wrong. You know, some people commit suicide over it.
Yeah, they do. And in this day and age, some people have sex changes so that, you know, they can feel who they really are. I don't have a truthful answer. I can only give you my opinion. And I'm concerned about my youngest grandson because he was a female in his last few lifetimes. He came back very quickly into a male body. I'm wondering, you know, and time will tell. And, you know, maybe if you ask me in another 40 years, I'll have the answer. Or at least, you know, can tell you, you know, how it worked here. But I often wonder if it's because they had so many lifetimes as the other gender that when they chose the opposite gender, they didn't have enough time between lifetimes to adjust.
Right. Okay. I know years ago I had been told by somebody that my main past lives was male. Whether that's true, I don't know. But I thought, well, I don't know if it would be the main past lives or the most recent one prior to now. But maybe it explains why, you know, I'm never a girly girl. I was, you know, a tomboy. I can't stand wearing skirts and dresses. I don't even really own any. An opinion or thoughts on that?
You know, I think that could very well be. You've adjusted to having the female body, but not a girly girl. You know, you still have and you have the confidence not to be a girly girl. You can be a tomboy and yet be feminine.
Right.
Right. Now, myself, I know my past 2 lifetimes I was a female, but this lifetime I was very tomboyish, and I often tease my mother about being raised by 2 fathers. Right. Because my mom always helped my dad do whatever he did on the farm. And she did not have a talent for cooking. She did not have, you know, she didn't wear makeup. You know, she didn't style her hair. She pulled it back in a ponytail or, you know, whatever. So there wasn't the female fashion influence. But so I don't know because, you know, is yours because you had 9 past male lives? Maybe. But my last 2 were feminine, and yet here I am a tomboy also.
Right.
Because of the way I was raised.
Well, we're doing it again. We are running out of time again.
Well, ask the audience what topic they'd like us to cover next time.
Next time, yes, because I'm going to, you know, arrange maybe to have you on at least once a month.
Oh, that would be fun.
But, you know, reincarnation is always fascinating for everybody, and I don't have it on here that often. Now, just so the viewers know that are watching, end up seeing the archive, Are you able to, I know you had just randomly, the last time you were on, picked up about me with the water thing. And if somebody tuned in late, you'll have to watch the archive and get the explanation for what I'm talking about at the beginning of the show. I don't have time to go over it again. Are they able to come get a hold of you to find out what their past life was, or is that like your mediumship thing where it randomly comes, or they have to be in person with you and can't do it over the phone? How's that work for you?
Usually I get past life when I'm doing a healing on someone.
Okay.
So if they come in for energy work, that type of stuff, or if they come in and specifically say, you know, I want to know why I have this quirk, whatever the quirk may be. Sometimes I can tap into it that way, but they have to ask specifically for it. Otherwise, it's like my guides don't know what they're supposed to be sifting through the archives looking for in your energy until you put it out into the ethers. But I can be reached at provenpsychics.com Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8 a.m. to noon. And you can hit and miss getting a hold of me at stars, that's with a Z, S-T-A-R-Z, psychics.com. I do readings both places. And if I don't do phone readings often, but you can, if you want to email me and ask for a phone reading, I can arrange it. The email is Cindy Lee at R-E-V, cindylee.com.
And you can get a hold of me, send me emails for whatever topic you would like to have Cindy and I discuss the next time she returns, so that we can get that going at Terror by Misha at AOL.com. And you can find me on Facebook. You can get a hold of me that way, Terror by Misha. It's in the cards, also has a Facebook page. And you can get a hold of me that way because Cindy Lee will schedule to return again. And you are so much fun and so informative.
Thank you. What I enjoy is we have two different views and we're allowed to share it at the same time.
Exactly.
I like that.
The different views on the handicapped. And the
I had never heard that. That's interesting.
And I had never heard yours. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight again.
Thank you.
And we will see about setting up for you to come back on again when your schedule's free. And everybody have a fantastic week. Next week's February, so Valentine's shows will be coming up.
Yeah.
Take care, stay warm. See you all next week. Good night.
Bye.